Morning, y'all. Rob the American here. We're doing something a little bit different today, folks. Now, y'all know me. I try and be positive on my channel. I love looking at watches. I love immersing myself in the watch world. However, today I was trying to decide what to call this video, whether it's something like snobbery in the watch community or treat your customers well or something to that effect. So we're gonna go sit down, find some place, and I'll tell you what's on my mind. So I've been thinking about doing a video like this for a while, and what finally put me over the edge was what happened to me a couple of weeks ago in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, I was there attending a watch trade show called Geneva Watch Days, which is kind of like a more relaxed version of Watches and Wonders, which is the big trade show that takes place in April every year in a huge event space. This takes place in fancy hotels along the lake, and companies that participate rent out rooms there, and you make appointments and you go see them. And 99% of my time was fantastic. I've made 2 videos about it that made it so incredible, but it was that 1% that pushed me over the edge to make this video. Let me share with you this tragic tale. So I had made a bunch of appointments, like I said, in advance with a bunch of companies. Now, one brand that I wanted to see very badly, I didn't have appointments with, and that's because I didn't know how to reach them or to reach out to them. But by good fortune, or what I thought was good fortune, I was with a Swiss good pal of mine. He was coming with me to my appointments, French speaking, and he happened to know one of the hostesses that was in charge of the hotel where they were staying, and she was able to make us an appointment for us. So I was so excited. And let me tell you, this is a very, very exclusive brand that represents three different watch companies. And I'm not naming names because that's not what this is about, but they have a very, very limited dealer network. So I knew if I was able to get in here, I would be able to share, take a bunch of videos and share them with all of y'all. Hand-painted dials, spectacular movements, all of the above. So I was so excited, and we came in on the time that they let us in. We went up to their suite, and I was beaming. I was so excited, and I was talking to the rep outside of the suite saying I wanted to see this and I wanted to see that. He's like, "Oh, you're going to get to see all of it." So we went in. Now, the space was smaller than I expected, and there were a few people sitting there already, I guess, meeting with a rep. And a kind of a middle-aged, attractive woman came up to us, and she started speaking French to my friend. And I didn't really understand what they were saying, but I was kind of looking at the watches, just very excited. And I see them speaking to each other, maybe 5 feet from me, and he's got the weirdest expressions on his face. And then she turns to me, and I introduce myself and hand her my card, and she says, is this for Instagram? And I said, well, if it's all right, I'd like to take video. I always ask permission out of politeness. And she kind of gives me a look, and then she starts talking to my friend in French again. And then she kind of turns around and walks out. And my friend looks at me and starts making another face and says she was so rude, and she wanted to know why we were there and all of this kind of stuff. And we looked at each other and we're like, what has just happened? And it completely ruined the mood. I could not wait to get out of there. I thought, you know what? Forget about it. I wouldn't show them on my YouTube channel for anything. And not that my channel is so important or that it'll make or break them by any means, but it had just put a damper on the whole experience. And we walked out of the suite, and the folks that were outside said, how come y'all are out so quickly? I mean, we must have been in there maybe 5 minutes. And we said, oh, the lady wasn't nice, and we just decided we want to leave. So we took the elevator down and saw my friend's hostess friend, And she kind of looked at us, and my friend starts speaking to her in French about what happened, and she gets this look on her face, and then she starts apologizing to me, and she's feeling really bad, and I'm feeling bad because she's feeling bad. And I said, don't worry about it, it's not the end of the world, all of that. So we walked outside and looked at each other and said, what just happened? We could not believe it. It had really, we were kind of laughing and it just in shock that had happened. But we went about our business and carried on with the day. Now, she contacted the hostess friend, contacted my friend, saying that the company was going to contact me to apologize. Because I had given them my card, and I guess they got my WhatsApp number from that. And so I said, whatever. At that point, I didn't really care. But I figured, okay, that's a decent thing to do. So we carried on with the day. Now, my phone started ringing when we were with looking at some other watches, and I didn't want to stop in the middle of it, so I didn't answer it. And when I looked at my phone later, it said international call, and I assumed that that's what it was. But they did not leave a message, and they never tried calling again. That really got me thinking about customer experience, and I was wondering if other customers and folks were being treated badly. And it took me back a few years, and I will name names on this one. So this is way before I had a YouTube channel. I had gone down to London to look at watches, of course, and I was on Bond Street, which is where all the fancy boutiques are. And one of the watches that was on my list of trying to get to see was a Cartier that had been announced earlier, and I was dying to get my hands on it. So I went into their boutique, and I was dressed well, as I normally am, and I walked in the store. I got past the security guy, and there were two beautiful women dressed well, probably mid-30s, and I walked up to them and I said, introduced myself, and I said, hello, I'm looking for this so-and-so watch. And she does this. She looks at me and does this up and down thing with the look like, are you worthy of my time? And I was watching her doing this, and I froze. I'm like, no, you didn't just do that. Oh my God, I could not believe it. So she does that. She looks on her little tablet and says, I'm sorry, we don't have that yet. And I was like, thank you very much. And I walked out. And you could not pay me to go back there. I mean, to be sized up and down like that was shocking. Now, the reason I am naming names is because recently, in the last few months, I was in Brussels, and I went into the Cartier booth there, the Cartier store there, another beautiful store. And I was looking for another watch, and the gentleman that helped me could not have been any nicer, and he could tell that I knew my stuff. And he brought out tons that I didn't even ask for. He was so helpful. He's so welcoming. I mean, that's how you do it. Now, I don't know if that was a Cartier thing, or I caught that woman on a bad day, or I'm not really sure, but it's so important, man. First impressions are everything. Now, if that's your company policy to kind of be standoffish and all of that, well, good luck to you. But I would never buy a watch or anything else where I didn't feel like I was treated well. I mean, there's too many choices in the world. Why would you? But that Cartier in Brussels was fantastic, and it brought me back to the brand. Now, believe it or not, I did start off badly with a local Manchester jeweler, and this is the time right after COVID, and things had opened up, but things were still tight, and you were supposed to be wearing a mask if you stood up, but COVID magically disappeared when you sat down. That's a story for another day. But I could not get past the security guard. I went up to the door. They didn't know me at that time, and he was really gruff and rude, and we've since kissed and made up, so to speak. But first impressions are very important, like I've said, and I think a lot of folks are intimidated by the security at the front desk, and I think training is important. You've got to make them feel welcoming. I remember going into another jeweler, and the first thing out of his mouth was, take off your hat. And it was wintertime, so it was cold. But you know, there's a right way and a wrong way, but you've got to treat your customers better. I made a video in Newcastle last year with the guys from Watch Trader, and they mostly deal with pre-owned, mostly Rolex. And I asked them, and I thought this was really smart. I said, how do you get guys, you hear it for a million times, I want a Pepsi, or I want a Daytona, or I want a Submariner. How do you keep positive after hearing that over and over and over? And he said to me, he said, well, we realize that this is a very special day for the folks that come in here, that this may be they've been saving for a special watch, and this is important to them, and we recognize that, and we want the day to be special for them. So we try and be as positive as we can, and make their experience special. And I thought that was very smart, and all dealers should have that attitude. I do believe that good behavior and good manners works both ways. And so when I go looking at watches, especially when they don't know me, I dress nicely, I wear good shoes, I try to present myself very professionally. I also know a little bit about the watches, and I think dealers appreciate that. It's like when you go to a foreign country and you don't speak the language, if you learn a few words, it's appreciated, and you get the best out of people as a result of that. Once they get to know you, you can be more relaxed. But I think that's important too. I have also seen customers go and be rude, be pushy while I'm sitting there, and I think, God, how can you take it? So I totally sympathize and empathize with these dealers who have to deal with folks that are not always friendly, and that are not always polite. Yeah, so it's got to be tough. You definitely would have to bite your lip sometimes when you want to tell them to shove off. That takes me to a comment that I received from my Las Vegas video. So last December, I went to Las Vegas and did a watch prowl, and was talking about how friendly everyone was and how much I enjoyed it. And one of the comments was something to the effect of course they're nice to you. You're white and look like you have a big bank account. and I thought, wow, that's interesting. Number one, you don't know if I'm a zillionaire or I'm a poor guy who just likes looking at watches. So there's that. And in terms of me being white, none of us can help really what we're born with, who our parents are, things that we're given. It's what we make from it. And I believe that being nice, I'm trying to be nice, I'm sincere and appreciative, and I get that in return. And so I'm not even going to dignify that response. I guess I am dignifying with my response, but he can stick that where the sun don't shine. Earlier today, I happened to be speaking with my good pal Kieran, who y'all might know from the YouTube channel Top Tier Ticker. If you don't know it, you should check it out. And he asked me what I was up to, and I told him I was filming this video today. And he said, oh God, he said, yeah, that's happened to me too. He was at a Time to Watches, which is a watch event that takes place during Watches and Wonders. And he said he went to go see a brand. He didn't have an appointment, but he went in, and Kieran is the nicest, most decent guy you'll ever meet. And they were rude to him. He said, oh, if you don't have an appointment, you can go, and all of this. And he said, I just want to film a couple of my watches for a YouTube channel. And he's not someone to push himself on other folks. And he didn't say it, oh, look at who I am or anything like that. He's a sincere guy. And they still treated him so shabbily. And he even told me that he sent them an email saying, hey, this is what happened. And they never even responded. Well, why would anyone want to buy their watches? And it does not make sense to me. But I guess some feel entitled, or some feel like, hey, you need us more than we need you. And you know what? Life doesn't always work that way, and sometimes that can come and bite you back. I've spoken to a lot of dealers, and this really refers more to Rolex dealers. And I know Rolex is the king dog. They can do whatever they want because they control so much of the market. But sometimes the way, and this works both ways. I've seen customers go into Rolex dealers and be rude. Where's my watch? How come I can't have this? All of this, and that's not cool. I know it's frustrating. I know there's often a long wait, and sometimes you get the runaround on that side. But also, I've seen some Rolex dealers basically say, well, you have to buy this watch to get the watch you really want. Or why don't you buy some jewelry and show that you're worthy of us trying to get you a watch? I would never do that. I think that's wrong. I don't think anyone should participate in that game, but I know it's frustrating and people really want these watches and are willing to do whatever they can. But in the end, to me, it's not worth it. Ultimately, I believe you get back what you put in. And I was raised in a small Texas town, and my daddy always said, you take care of those who take care of you. And if you go into a place and you feel like you're not getting good customer service, walk away and walk away. There are other places that will take good care of you. You deserve that, if nothing else. Y'all have heard and seen me go on and on about my love for Time and Tide Studios in London. And one of the main reasons is because of the experience that you get when you go to places like that. They're not the only ones, but to me, that they really show the watch experience in the best sort of light. They hire people that love watches. They talk watches. They live watches. Well, maybe there's medication for that. I'm not sure, but it's the entire experience. You can go in there and they'll talk to you for hours, whether or not you buy something. Now, I'm sure they would prefer that you do buy something, but there is absolutely no pressure, and that's what makes, for me at least, the whole watch experience worthwhile, and that's you should expect the same no matter where you go. All right, y'all, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you found this video of interest, and please leave comments down below on your own experiences, good and bad. Do you feel like this has been helpful? Do you think I'm full of it? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget, my Instagram is Rob the American. That's Rob_the_American. Follow that and join me again for some more watch talk. Y'all take good care.